Well, Ofqual's Chief Executive, Glenys Stacey, appeared before MPs on the Education Select Committee this morning. A short time ago, she spoke to our Chief Political Correspondent, Norman Smith, who asked her what she made of the calls for her to resign.
Well, I think we at Ofqual are busy doing an important job. It's important, it's also not always easy. We've got a task to do and we're getting on with it.
What do you say to those who argue that you effectively moved the goalposts halfway through the academic year by changing the sort of grades required?
Well, as we've shown in our initial report, we know that the June boundaries were right, and as I've said before, students in January, those few that took units then, had what we might call a lucky break. But the important thing is that the June awarding was right.
Why then didn't you intervene after January when you realised that those grades were too generous?
It wasn't easy or indeed possible for us or any of the exam boards to see that those were generous at the time because they had such limited information. And it's not really until the whole award comes in, all of the students came in, that one can actually make those judgments.
And yet we now have the Welsh Government saying they are sufficiently concerned to order remarking. Why should students in Wales have their GCSE English remarked, but not those in England?
Yes, I'm not quite sure as yet what the Welsh Government is asking in Wales, and we need to take the chance to have a look at that. I think a report came out just yesterday, so we'll be looking at that very carefully.
But isn't it unfair to those English students who took their GCSE English this summer, because we now have a complete hodgepodge? We have those who took the GCSE in January who were given more generous remarks. We have students in Wales who are going to have those remarked, and then we have the lump of those students in England who are not going to have anything done for them.
Well, as I say, we at Ofqual don't know as yet what is to happen in Wales, but what's important for us is that we regulate standards in England, and our job is to make sure that standards are maintained year after year and that qualifications are safe.
What do you say to those students, though, who perhaps have missed out on colleges because of something which is not their fault at all, because of a mix-up in exam marking?
I'm not sure it's right to say there's been a mix-up in exam marking. Instead, the position is that the June awarding was right. So as I've said before, those students who had a C grade got a C grade, those that got a D grade got a D grade. But I do understand how upsetting it is for students to find they haven't got what they expected, if that's the case, and that's why exam boards are offering resit opportunities.
But that sounds a bit like tough luck for them. Good luck for those in January, but tough luck for those this summer.
I think the important thing to note is that awards were right this summer, and they need to be right this summer, next summer and last summer. Very few students took some examinations in January, and as I've said, they appear to have had a lucky break.
Wasn't this a problem coming down the tracks, because your organisation was actually warned about 3 years ago about potential problems with the GCSE English and the modular system? Why didn't you take action to ensure these problems didn't occur?
The organisation that I had didn't actually exist 3 years ago, but it's right to say that there were technical papers, questions asked, but clearly the options for making changes to the way the qualification was structured were completely unworkable. The way it was structured was the way it was agreed at the time by those involved.
Now, we know your organisation wrote to one of the examining bodies, EdXL, concerned that they were offering grades that were too generous. Was it appropriate for your organisation to intervene in that way?
It was absolutely appropriate. That's why Ofqual's been set up to maintain standards and to challenge awarding bodies, to challenge exam boards if they don't get things right. If we see differences in performance between exam boards, if we see inflation of the scale that was being suggested there, the public must expect us to intervene. That's what a regulator is required to do.
OK, Glenys, Stacey, thanks so much. Just to say that although Michael Gove has insisted he will not intervene, the Labour Party have now added to the calls from some of the teaching unions for a full independent inquiry into the marking saga.
Norman Smith there speaking to Glenys Stacey, the head of Ofqual.